Fall and protest. What did Afghan women do after the fall of the Republic and the army? August 15, 2021, the victory of the Taliban militants, the fall and collapse of the Afghan army. Fugitive Afghan President Muhammad Ashraf Ghani and bolster leaders left the country. People are also rushing to flee the country, but women are breaking the silence caused by this fall. On August 17, women took to the street of Kabul chanting, "There are Afghan women." Only 5 women took part in the protest, but with a strong will against an anti-feminist group drank on victory. The second spark of the protest is repeated with the same slogan on the 28th of this month. September 3, the circle of struggle became wider. Women are meeting and preparing to start the struggle. The result of this meeting is a movement called Spontaneous Movement Afghan Women Fighters, and a plan for the next breathtaking movement is drawn up. The next day, more women in purple tents line up from the Fawari Hub to the road front of the Arc or Presidential Palace. Taliban, Taliban, violator of human rights. Taliban, Taliban, violator of human rights. The women marched with the slogan, but on the other side, the battery section of the Taliban blocked the road to the protesters and prevented them from advancing. Repeated anti-Taliban chants by the protesters have left Taliban militants frustrated, with airstrike, pepper spray, and tear gas being used to disperse the protesting women. September 14, a spontaneous movement of Afghan women's activists convenes a press conference and resolution expressing their demands to the media. At the conference, women invited Taliban leaders to discuss women's rights, governance, and human rights values which the Taliban ignored. September 30, the entrance door of Rabia Balkhi Women High School, Karti Parwan. Members of the spontaneous movement of Afghan women, this time, they protested in response to closure of girls' schools by the Taliban. The protesters called for the immediate opening of girls' schools with the slogan, "Do not politicize education." But the Taliban militia tore down the banners by tearing down banners with the slogans of the protesting women and violently allowing journalists to leave. Imaging and news coverage do not. It's as if they do not want to be silent. In any case, something must be done. Celebrating teacher days, shouting for teacher salaries, and protesting against the false promoting of female classes were other women's protest program. An important part of the concern of this protesting women is the education of girls. Therefore, it's not possible to sit quietly with the girls' class closed. Why is the world silent? History is ashamed of your silence. October 26, 2021. A spontaneous movement of Afghan women's fighters, United Nations mission in Afghanistan. The protesting women criticized the silence and indifference of the United Nations and other human rights organizing and countries and issued resolution to reaffirm their demands to the world. 10 days after the protest, members of the movement wrote to the United Nations to ensure social justice and human rights and do not recognize the Taliban. The letter was several pages long with a call for justice and call for international cooperation for the poor people of Afghanistan. And this time, differently than before, the creation of reading group was held to inform the members of the movement and to introduce the books that are useful for holding and how to ask for a protest. Every fortnight, book reading sessions and struggle circles were held in one of Kabul's libraries. But the Taliban, fearing books and awareness, warned library officials that they would end up in jail or in a ditch if they cooperated with the protesting women. December 4, when the spontaneous movement of Afghan women activists wanted to report on their 100 working days in a regular program in one of the libraries of Kabul city, but the Taliban warned the official of the library to make it difficult for the protesting women. On that day, the Taliban forces did not even allow these women to protest on the streets, until the women were forced to hold their program in a closed space with a few people. The Taliban issued phone call and warning to members of the protest, urging them to block any protest if possible. The atmosphere of terror and warning through telephone calls to the protesting women took place so that these women could change the protest from the street to the closed ceiling and the narrow walls. November 25, Stop Violence Against Women protest on the roof of the house on the occasion of World Human Rights Day, holding Yelda Night celebration, waiting for the sunrise and freedom, a colorful cultural historical tableau to a Persian speaker and with candles that it burns and makes. The message of the table of hope is a sword imposed on the hearts and minds of the dark-minded and backwarded rulers, a group that has worked hard to remove the proud identity and language of the people, which is impossible. Gain and penury, tyranny and freedom. The spontaneous movement of Afghan women fighters was the first movement or spark after the Taliban's victory of Kabul, inspired by women under other names, but the spell of this silence and terror was broken by members of this militant movement. Afghan women fighters has carried out many protest activities over the past few months, some of which we covered in this report. These women are part of the honors of the New World, the voice of justice and standards bearers of the path of freedom and human democratic values, and this path continues. But can the Taliban silence the voice of freedom by repeatedly arresting protesting women? Is the Taliban prison waiting for all the protesters in resentments? Are the lives and reputation of the protesting girls and women in danger? And isn't torturing and killing protesters easy for the Taliban? This is the question and concern of all the protesters. No crime is unlikely from a terrorist group. Bismillah Hazin, the member of spontaneous movement of Afghan women fighters.